For as many musicians as were beginning to collect around these songs, there really was no band to speak of yet. Two of the earliest outings I can recall were both as an odd three-piece ensemble. We drove out to Los Angeles in the summer of 2005 to open up for our friend Jeff Klein. That group consisted of Simpson on guitar and piano, Kyle Hunt, who would later go on to play with the Black Angels, on synthesizer, and myself on bass, with a spontaneous last-minute addition of Mike Semple from Friends of Dean Martinez, who Kyle knew but none of the rest of us had ever met before, on electric guitar and tape echo. This was classic Chris Simpson. New person? Recommended by a friend? Available tonight? Welcome to the family. A few months later, we drove out to play a couple of shows in New Mexico, again as a three-piece, this time swapping Kyle and his synths for Colin Fuchs on vibraphone and probably a horn of some sort. Looking back, it seems strange that we wouldn't have prioritized finding a drummer, but Zookeeper in those early days was more about Chris discovering and becoming infatuated with individuals, as he had with Alex and Ben, than about assembling a band. He would often show up to work going on about a phenomenal guitar player he had just met or a horn player he'd seen at some show or another. Eventually that person would be invited to sit in on a recording session, and often as not they would stick around for a few months or years. In that way it was very much a web of individual atmospheres and personal relationships, rather than the need for specific instruments that defined the sound of Zookeeper. That was the case with both Kyle and Cullen, and it was very much the case with Cully Symington. I had been hearing about Cully for months before I ever met him. He was a pretty young fella compared to many of us, just a year or so out of high school, and already had a reputation as a solid and creative drummer. Everybody in Austin wanted him to be in their band, and for good reason. Cully is one of the most overtly musical and lyrical drummers I've ever heard play. Speaking as the other half of that rhythm section, playing with Cully can't help but make you a better bass player. He also has zero ego, which is especially impressive for someone so talented. Chris met Cully at another early Cacophony session after Wofford had recommended him for the gig. It was an instant connection. Outside of the aforementioned chord-charted night, Cully played drums on every Zookeeper session from then on out. And there were many.